released from assignment and duty, and on the date following placed on the retirement list. The people of the United States express their thanks and gratitude for your faithful service. Your contributions to the defense of the United States of America are greatly appreciated.
Lieutenant Colonel Scott P. Nos, a Plans and Operations Officer with 1st Space Brigade, retired last month with 36 years of combined enlisted/commissioned service in both the Navy and Army. He delivered a heartwarming speech at his retirement ceremony at Peterson Air Force Base that encapsulated his career and what meant most to him during his service. Colonel Eric D. Little introduced him at his retirement ceremony.
Because I have known Scott for a few years now. And I can tell you from the heart, he's a guy that I respect and he's a guy that I admire. And before we recap, what I will tell you and you will see is a truly remarkable career.
It was a career that took him far and wide across the globe, beneath its seas and into its skies, literally. From submarines to aviation to space, Nos's constant drive for adventure and travel gave him a career many would envy.
So I joined the Navy, like Colonel Wills said, when Jimmy Carter was president.
The erosion of our confidence in the future is threatening to destroy the social and the political fabric of America.
Gas was below 75 cents a gallon. Interest rates were, I think, 12 to 14%. Grew up in a small town in Medina. I want to thank my mom and dad, who are currently deceased. Stay deceased too. But I want to thank them for just giving me a stable environment. When you have that security, you can go out and take chances. And January 13th of 1979, I entered the delayed entry program into the Navy and started my adult career. I went to boot camp in September.
And after graduating from basic training, he became a machinist mate.
So a machinist mate is affectionately called a snipe. And that's kind of their endearing term. They're the snipes. But there's a number of MOSs that fall under that category. Machinist mate, boiler techs. What they did is work on the propulsion equipment for either submarines or surface ships. So all the boilers, all the piping, almost all Navy ships run on the steam plant, whether it's nuclear or conventional power. So machinist mate kind of run from the generation point to the propellers. So all the trim and drain, all the supply, steam supply, all that stuff taken care of by machinist mates. By the time it was time to go to a ship, I was selected for a boost, broad an opportunity for officer selection and training. So what that program is it's really designed to help strengthen your kind of core math skills, science skills, English. So it's kind of a college prep course. And so I was selected to that and ended up going out in San Diego.
Nos then subsequently received a Reserve Officer Training Corps, ROTC for short, scholarship at Miami University in Ohio, and was on track to graduate as an ensign, but got into some trouble his senior year.
I kind of realized the mistakes I'd made and said, I wanted to start making sure I do everything I could to try to make myself at least marketable for officer again at some point. So submarines were kind of the creme de la creme of the Navy at the time, so I chose sonar tech on submarines. And fortunately was selected and went through sonar school in San Diego, and then I went through advanced school, C school, what they call C school in the Navy, up in Bangor, Washington. I got assigned to the USS Ohio, SSBN 726, and once I completed my C school, was assigned to them. They run what they call Blue and Gold Crew, and so I got assigned to, I believe it was the Gold Crew, and within 3 months of joining the ship, we did a SSBN patrol, and we kind of spent 90 days underwater, and I kept us from bumping into things.
Right before his scheduled second tour at sea, Nos was selected for Officer Candidate School and shipped off to Pensacola, Florida, to pursue his dream of commissioning as an ensign, which would happen in January of 1988.
Went through basic flight school as a naval flight officer, so got kind of a backseater, navigator type thing. If you ever saw Top Gun, I was in the pipeline to be Goose at some point.
No. There's two O's in Goose, boys.
And then I selected P3s, which is anti-submarine warfare, and then went through naval flight officer school, and then P3, what they call the P3 RAG, replacement air group. So that's where we learned platform-specific techniques for flying in a P3.
Nos's naval career was exciting and rewarding. Some of the highlights include:
I think flying in P3s is kind of a unique opportunity. I was stationed in Hawaii for my first tour as an officer, and out at Barking Sands, Kauai, they have a torpedo test range. So you actually get to drop a torpedo on a sled, which is pretty cool. And as a mission commander for a P3, it's actually pretty cool stuff to be able to do that. My one tour, I was stationed on the USS Kitty Hawk for a couple of years, and being able to, you see in Top Gun, the shooters, but I didn't do that. I did Officer of the Dick, which is you're in charge of driving the ship. And it was a pretty awesome event when you're, up there on the bridge, directing the ship where to go, watching flight operations, watching the jets take off. And then either refueling or replenishing. You've got a supply ship within 200 yards of you, and you're just cruising along, and you're bringing over stores and fuel and all sorts of stuff, and can be pretty harrowing if the seas are a little rough. It can be pretty exciting to do those things. So a lot of good port calls: Hong Kong, Diego Garcia, Japan, a number of places in Japan, and then I was stationed in Iceland for a year and a half as a kind of a staff officer at an anti-submarine warfare operations center. Got to do a lot of exercises with our NATO partners in Europe. Norway was a big one, the French, and then the English anti-submarine warfare teams.
After being passed up for Lieutenant Commander, 04, Nos got out of the Navy and went into construction. But most importantly, he
lived life and went. I think one of the highlights was when just before I got out of the Navy, I gave my life to Christ, became a Christian, and during that time out of the Navy, was involved in 2 church plants in Wisconsin. So that was exciting. Helped a couple churches get up online, and they are still successful as of today. So that was pretty exciting.
Unsatisfied with civilian life, though, Nos decided he wanted to get back in the military. And this time around, he went Army.
I think obviously 9/11 happened just after I got out of the military, so it was kind of a wake-up call. Once I had gotten out of the Navy, that door kind of closed. I had 14 and a half years worth of active duty, so I just still wanted to try to finish up my 20 years, either reserve side of the house or active duty. The Army has a program called a direct deployment program, which for a number of years I had no clue. But a friend of mine, Dan Zimmerman, who was a senior major, just got selected for lieutenant colonel, was an ROTC instructor at Ripon College. And he told me about the direct deployment program with the Army back in 2005. And so I was like, well, I might as well try to support the war effort and, try to help myself finish up my career. Put a package in, and about 6 to 9 months later, July 4th of 2006, I was pinned on captain as a United States Army reservist with UW Oshkosh ROTC unit. And it was an amazing event because I never thought I'd be in the Army coming in. I branched as an engineer, which really fit with what my civilian career was doing. So it was kind of a good fit, and it was a wonderful opportunity to be able to start off my career that way. So that's kind of how I got back into the Army.
Within 9 months of joining the Army Reserves, he deployed to Iraq and found himself at a detainee facility near the Kuwait border.
we were kind of there at the height of the detainee. We had 25,000 detainees at Camp Puka. That was a little nerve-wracking at some point. And then it was kind of fun. We did some construction out from the camp, and it was just interesting to see the different cultures. We coordinated some purchases of tile and things like that, and just experiencing that within the context of being an Army officer, and understanding that while it's a dangerous mission, it's also kind of an exciting mission in the sense that you're dealing with a different culture and trying to build that trust and being able to interact with them on a professional level where they're willing to help you and work with you.
After a second deployment, this time to Afghanistan, Nos returned home and found out about Army Space by way of the Army's Space Cadre Basic course in 2017. He then took an active Guard Reserve position with 1st Space Brigade and was there for 4 years until his retirement. He credits his time in Army Space as a great way to round out his career while learning about the facets of the complicated world of satellite communication, missile defense, and warning.
I think the biggest thing I've gotten out of being with SMDC is just how much not only the Army but the entire military uses space products, and how important it is that we kind of treat the space domain as a warfare domain, because without the assets that we have in space and being able to access those 24/7, we are kind of in a hurt locker if we don't keep those lines of communication open and being able to utilize all the assets that we have available to us. I love the technical aspects of it. Fortunately, I was able to go through a lot of the classes, and just space is cool. I mean, it's really cool to learn about how things work in space and kind of the inherent difficulties of putting up satellites, utilizing the payloads that are associated with those satellites, and understanding how all the different mission areas can utilize the space products that are available to them. I think the biggest hurdle is letting people know what there is available to them as they go out into their area of operation. Because I think a lot of non-space individuals don't know that there are a lot of space products available to them.
When asked what the parallels were between his time in the Navy versus his time in the Army and civilian life in between, Nos had this to say.
I think my Navy days were much more social-oriented than professionally oriented. I was a young junior officer and kind of carefree, and junior Navy flight officer, which is dangerous combination of terms in and of itself.
Son, your ego is writing checks your body can't cash.
And then, I think taking a step back as a civilian between the Navy and the Army, realizing that the military culture is just one that is just, you miss it. When you're out of it, you really kind of miss it. The Army, seeing how as staff officers, how you support the commanding officer to get a mission complete. And just the team aspect of the Army is invaluable in trying to get things done, that you're willing to put away your own pride in order to get best for the team and for the mission. So, I mean, professionally wise, the Army was much more beneficial to me than the Navy. But obviously I learned something in each of them, and I wouldn't trade the experiences for anything.
Nos's final words in his retirement ceremony speech emphasized the need to foster relationships with those close to you.
My only recommendation as I say farewell is that cultivate the relationships, don't take them for granted, and just love on each other. It's a wonderful thing. So, thank you.